Hello, Steve White, Steve White's 89. Well, I just watched the second episode of Des. Now, I got excited in the first couple of seconds because I thought they showed Des standing in front of a bonfire, basically. He was burning the bodies in the backyard. I thought, oh my god, they're actually going to do flashbacks. They're going to go back. They've sort of covered the arrest period. Now they're going to cover a period where he was murdering him. No. They just transitioned from that shot to the police digging up the bones and everything. So that's as far as they went with that. So I was a bit disappointed there. Like, I was really hoping this series was going to be covering the murders, not just the investigation. So, but no. Now, the good thing about this... Okay. The writing is very good. The acting is very good. It's well dramatised. It is a quality show. It's just not focusing on exactly what I wanted. But it is compelling. There were a few moments that were quite well done, and I'm enjoying it as like almost a procedural drama. So on that level, it's hard. A lot of people complain with reviews when something's not what they want, and well, it's obviously this is what they intended, and I sort of need to look at it from that perspective, and it's a very good drama. It's very well acted. It's very well written. Now this episode, it sticks pretty much to, I guess, the sort of more publicised time of the investigation, and it deals more with the politics of all of that, which is kind of surprising to me. I guess I'm naive. I thought when someone kills a bunch of people, they just investigate until they have all the bodies, all the identities, and they just don't stop until it's resolved, until they sort of decide that there's no more leads or it's not going anywhere, and then they put it in the cold cases or something. That's what I thought happened. But apparently you just need enough to convict. So basically, once they get 6 people, Scotland Yard shuts the investigation down because that's enough to charge him on and convict him for and put him away and never have to worry about it again. They don't seem to care. And the disappointing part of this series is they're not dealing with why they don't care. The reason why they don't care is because the victims are all gay, or perceived to be gay, and the killer was a gay. They're gay murders. So that's why they didn't care. That's why they didn't want to spend the money on continuing the investigation to find the identities of these people so the families would have resolution. So they didn't deal with that at all. The homophobic element of the investigation, I mean, there are moments where the investigator is saying, how did we not know about this? How did we not get on, catch this when it was happening? And they don't answer that freaking question. And that's what the answer to that question is, homophobia. So I was hoping in these delightfully woke times they would have dealt with that. But they're not. So that's disappointing. But it is kind of disturbing to watch. And I'm assuming this is what happened, but it's dramatised. I was going to watch some documentaries on him today, but I decided just watch the series as it is, follow that narrative, that story, those characterizations, and then look at the documentaries after the third episode, and then you can do like a comparison between how they portrayed people, how they dealt with the subject matter, how they dealt with the story, what they got wrong, facts and all that, rather than sort of doing it during the moment, and then when I'm watching it going, that's wrong, and then I can't enjoy it, so I'm not going to do that. But this episode pretty much, it doesn't cover a lot of ground, but it's mostly just the frustration of trying to find the identities from what little remains. Des, did a good job of getting rid of the evidence. He left a bunch of bones, but they still can't identify most of the people. They only get 6 out of... the coroner in this says between, 7 and 20 bodies is what he can put it down to. So they found 6. So identified 6. So it's, and I still feel they spent too much time in the office with the investigators and outside of Dennis. And the really compelling scenes are the ones with Dennis, because David Tennant has managed to portray him so well. there is a couple of scenes. There's one scene where he's talking to his biographer, who sent him a letter and initiated contact with Dennis. I wasn't sure last episode, I can't remember, but he's basically challenging him, and he's bothered by what he did with the corpses, what he did with the bodies, and Dennis gets quite outraged that you're more bothered with what I did with these bodies than you are what I did with these live men, that I killed them in the first place. Like, you need to check your morality, basically. And just the reaction from the character to be, checked on his morality by a serial killer it's fascinating. And there's another scene which is incredibly tense, and it's still a scene. It's basically one shot. Basically, it's a side shot of Dennis sitting at a table, and the investigator comes in, and he has photos of two men, one that he referred to in a particular job, I can't remember what it was, and he didn't work as that, or they felt he misled him with that description. So he comes in with a photo, sits down and says, "Did you kill these men?" And he's like, because he's asked about his dog, he's complained about the conditions, he's pointed out the fact that I'm being treated like a criminal when I haven't been convicted of anything, and this is wrong. And it's like, you've admitted that you've done it, you're helping with the investigation, you're sharing everything. Like, where is the doubt here? Why should you be treated any better? Like, his outrage is obscene and bizarre, and it's just a very simple direction, just slowly moves in on the two, and eventually just comes in and just focuses on Dennis as they're arguing. He's challenging him, and he's getting quite aggressive, the investigator, and saying, "Who, just do the right thing, identify these people, look at this effing photo," basically. And he's just arms folded. He says, "No comment," because he's just that much of a heartless, no emotions, nothing matters. It just does not serve him in that moment. So the end, and he does stop talking. And they sort of blame the biographer because they interview him, or they talk when the investigator gets him in a bar to talk, and basically says, "You're obligated to tell us anything he tells you so far as the case, the names, the identities," because he says, "Well, we're talking about his childhood and his army days and all this stuff. We're not really talking about the crimes themselves yet, blah, blah, blah." And like I said, the politics inside the office is frustrating. They're basically saying, "You're spending too much money. You've been doing this for ages. It's costing us a fortune for all your overtime. Are you going to find these people?" And there was a famous case that had been already investigated of a missing person. It was related to a politician, of course, so it got attention, unlike all the other homeless people and gay people who went missing. This person is the son of a senator with no drug addiction. He's a good boy, basically, so he got more attention. And there becomes the illusion that he may have been one of the victims. And of course they get frantic about identifying him and it becoming political, and the investigators' bosses are angry that he's gone over their head and continue to investigate leads when they've said not to. And eventually he pushes for some, not really extreme, but some logical investigative procedures. He basically says, fingerprint this book. They fingerprint the covers. And he's like, fingerprint the pages, because this guy was a tourist. This is a book on, like travelling around London. He might have looked at this book, and they did, in fact, in this. I have to check, did this really happen? They find his fingerprint in the book. And once they get this person who is a famous case, they're like, okay, close it all down now. You've done enough. And just the idea. Then they're all like, "Oh, your wives will thank us when you your family will thank us, your kids will thank us when you go home," basically. And then they just walk out. And so far as dealing with the victims and their families, there is two scenes with the girlfriend of one of the guys, because they weren't all gay. Some of them were just lured by free alcohol or somewhere to sleep if they were homeless. And this girl, she'd had a fight with a boyfriend, they weren't getting along, blah, blah, blah. And she's pretty sure it's him. And she comes in, they're interviewing her, and you know, she just gets your basic sort of treatment. That's fine, but then they call her back to let her know they've identified the body, but they've identified the body after the case has been laid out, and they can't add his name to it, so he's not going to get any justice, and they have to tell her that. And she gets very emotional, and she storms out. She doesn't blame them, but she's outraged at the situation, and they're helpless to do anything about it because they didn't want to close the case down until they had all you know, they'd investigated everything, and they just needed time and money, and they weren't willing to give it to them because of politics. And I didn't realise how much politics would affect an investigation or something like this. So I'm naive, but what else was there? I've got a whole bunch of notes. I don't know why I write notes. I can't read my own writing. It's like Dr. Chicken Scratch. I think I covered everything though. Yeah, of course he's upset about his dog, and he's more emotional to find out that his dog got sick after he went into custody, and they put the dog down because they thought it was better for the dog. Because that's one of the reasons why he's outraged. He's asked about the dog, and when the investigator comes in for that scene, that one-shot scene, which is just so brilliant and tense, one of the first things Dennis asks is, did you find out about my dog? And he's like, I'm sorry, you gave me so much to do, I was too busy to worry about your dog. And I'm like, oh, that's not the right approach. You are going to shut him off. And that's exactly what he did. And the other twist, which I have to check if this is real, because I paid more attention to the crimes and to Dennis himself and his life in all my readings of his case. And I never realised he actually pled not guilty, because the end of the episode ends with him standing up, being read out all 6 charges, and he says not guilty to each of them, and everyone is just like, and he's hired his lawyer back, and his biographer was like, why would you do that? I thought you weren't using a lawyer. And he's like, you know, things change in life. It's the only constant in life is change. And one thing I found odd, in the book, Dennis actually drew out some nice little diagrams of his murders and so forth, and they show him handing this to the biographer in the episode, and they've recreated it, but it's not actually, they didn't just print this out and use the actual prop, I guess. They've sort of just redrawn it and done similar illustrations. I find that really strange. I don't know why they didn't just include the original images. And they're pretty close. The closest one is probably the less gory, like the guy in the closet. But yeah, so that was interesting as well. So I really would like to know more about the production and what their decisions, what their motivations, and how they came to their decisions on certain things and that. And like I said, I'm going to do another little refresher study of the case, and then watch the episodes again and sort of try and find, the differences. And I might do a little difference between the episodes and the case, but I'm just doing vlogs and talking. I'm not really doing proper videos and documentary things. I don't think I can do something like that justice, but I might just talk about it if there are a few interesting things. But I hope people are watching this. I'd love to hear what people think about it. I got a few comments on the videos I did, but yeah, I'm done. I'm gonna go. Feel free to comment, let me know what you think, subscribe. What do y'all think? Is this good? Is it focusing too much on the case and all the procedural stuff rather than what actually happened? What I think is important, which is the experience of the victims and the motivations of this killer and the psychology of it all and just how it all happens. That's what I'm fascinated with, not how it was investigated afterwards and what the politics and the legal elements were. But yeah, I'm going to go. Thanks. Bye.